Guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today on Face Off, my question was, so if the 60s box set in the collection range, like seasons 3, 4, and 5, the ones, of course, that have the modern animations that are in color and black and white, if they could only include either the black and white version or the color version of the more recent animations, which ones would you prefer and why? Because disk space is going to become an issue because when you have stories like Evil of the Daleks, which is 7 parts, and you have a color version, a black and white version, and the Telesnap recon, you can't cram all of that onto one disc, and even 2 disc possibly. But there's so many stories like that in, say, season 4 that you're going to have a 12 disc set, which the structure they do those sets in, it won't work. You can't make a 12 disc set work with the current structure they make the collection range in. I think you really can't go past 10 disc. I mean, we've seen the 9 disc set; they're huge, and I think you might get stretched to 10, but it would be harder after that. And with season 4 already being 9 stories long, you really only have enough room for maybe one story to get 2 disc, and there's so many other stories that would need more than that, like Faceless Ones, for example. Or what about Macroterra? Even though it's only a 4-parter, can you do color animation, black and white animation, and recon all on one disc, 12 episodes plus the bonus stuff? So what if, just to cut down to where they can do it in 9 or 10 disc, they only are able to put either the black and white version of the animation or the color animation? Now, the poll had 147 votes, and the black and white version, surprisingly, had 76%, while the color version had 24%. I was really curious how this was going to go. Though, to be fair, I'm sure a lot of the people who watch my channel are more geared towards Classic Who, perhaps an older generation. Um, since I tend to talk about Classic Who a lot more than Modern Who, certainly with a lot more reverence than Modern Who, oftentimes. So knowing my audience, that shouldn't surprise me. But I was curious. I'm surprised this didn't have a few more votes, to be honest. I was surprised that it was that much in favor of the black and white version, especially since most of the modern animations are made with the color version in mind, and the black and white version just kind of there to appeal to the people who wouldn't watch them any other way. Um, so I was really surprised how that turned out. If I was to pick, it would be really hard. Some of the animations I prefer the color, some of the animations I prefer the black and white, some of the animations I love both, like, say, the Macroterra. I love the black and white animation and the color animation. They both have a very different feel to them, a very different almost atmosphere to them. When I watch the black and white version, I feel one way, and when I watch the color version, I feel a different way. They feel tonally different while both being equally good, if that makes sense. Whereas some of the others, like, say, the Faceless Ones, I prefer the black and white versions because I like to watch the surviving episodes with it. Abominable Snowmen, I think I prefer the color version. Uh, Whereas Evil of the Daleks, I like the first 5 episodes in black and white with the surviving episode 2, and the last 2 episodes I really like in color. So it really boils down to which story I'm talking about. But only doing one version of the animation on the box sets also makes the standard releases keep their value, because that's the only way to get both versions of the animation is to have the standalone the standalone version of it. So those would retain their value as well. So that kind of makes sense. So that's my thoughts on it. Let's see what y'all had to say. 5SSS says, well, the real episodes are going to take priority. So I'd go with black and white, and that means there's still reason to get the original releases. Sentai Rider says, I know I'm in the minority here, but I think the colorized versions, because whilst the original broadcasts were in black and white, the animations are a different kettle of fish. They were made with the purpose of being in color, and I always watch them in color. And then I watch the remaining episodes. It brings new life to a forgotten serial. That's fair. That's fair. Enigma Genesis says monochrome, because in a lot of cases the uh, monochromatic photography is far more atmospheric. Those BBC techs really knew their stuff. Who'd have thought that a sort of pale green would come out as a white console in black and white? That's also true. I never like when the animations make the console green. I don't. It was intended to be black and white, despite what Inferno might have you think. It was supposed to be in black and white, and I much prefer when the animation has it in black and white. I don't like when it has it green at all. Lee Carroll says, whichever way it goes, it'll give us a reason to keep a hold of the solo releases. Exactly. Bananas are good, which is one of my favorite usernames. Color is a nice option for the animations for sure, but black and white is more atmospheric and as 60s who should be. Uh, BNRM says, while I love the consistency of the black and white animations, the shots are composed for the wider aspect ratio of the color version, only in some animations. In some animations, the black and white version is also in 16:9. I believe Macroterra is like that, and I want to say I think Fury is like that as well. But yes, there are definitely some of them where the black and white versions are cropped down to 4:3, so you're not getting the whole picture. They do have to crop out part of the picture. I know Doctor Who doesn't always have masterful cinematography, but the lack of framing for the 4:3 black and white animations can be hard to get used to. So for the definitive version of the seasons, they should go with the color animations. I think that is a well put out argument. Again, I prefer probably the black and white ones. It would depend on the story, honestly, but that is a well reasoned argument, I think. Um, and I pointed out that I think some of them like Macro are in 16:9, and he said that's interesting to know. I'll have to check that out. Shamrock Particle, who's been a long time subscriber of the channel, says black and white for me, but I'd watch either. That said, I have gravitated to black and white, and I am not doing the Mavity joke this time. If they had color in the 60s, they'd have made use of it. Like Marco, e.g. Marco Polo's color photographs are amazing, and they are. The behind the scenes photos from Marco Polo look fantastic. They were stuck with black and white and use it to as much atmospheric effect. Again, Marco Polo's colors were also designed to translate to black and white recording devices and to prevent adjacent hues from blending into one indiscernible lumpy hue. The silly aqua adornments on the Daleks were designed to produce that specific shade of gray, not because it was the swingy 60s groovy, which really didn't get swingy for another 2 or 3 years. To be fair, the early 60s really were more like the 50s. Excuse me. By 1967, Unicorn Puke was yet oddly more tasteful than Normally Normal. That's a fun name. It says color animations are nice, but I prefer black and white. To be honest, if I had control over the animations, I would just animate the missing episodes in black and white and not bother with the surviving ones. Agreed. It'd save a lot of money that they could use to make the animations look better, but that'll never happen though because they want to sell these as a new product, and sometimes one extra episode in black and white that didn't exist before wouldn't be worth it for some people. Tardis Spider, who is a fellow YouTuber, says the animations serve more than one purpose. Very true. They fill in the gaps of the lost episode, not replacing them, and they attract new eyes to the product, which is again why we get full animations, even if they're surviving episodes, and in color and in 16:9. As a video creator, black and white is not as interesting as color. I disagree. I think it depends on the product. I think Schindler's List works really well in black and white, actually, where it's just like Young Frankenstein works really well in black and white. And moving pictures are more interesting than stills. I think that's true. If this product is to attract new eyes, make it as interesting as popular or as possible, I think is what he meant. XO8 Chill says, I'd say black and white to fit in with the original 60s episodes, especially because some stories have a couple of, excuse me, surviving episodes, so watching recons or black and white episodes fits better with the original episodes. It also means the original Steelbook, Blu-ray, and DVD animations keep some value as they have everything. Exactly. Paul Bailey, another fellow YouTuber, says black and white to match the other stories, plus we have them on Blu-ray, so if we want the color, we can buy them. Colin Coney, who is one of my top tier patrons, says, I like the atmosphere of black and white. I find that color tends to be oversaturated with large blocks of primary colors becoming a bit garish. I mean, I know it's the 1960s, but some tone would be nice. Somehow black and white avoids this for me. Hudson Media, who is also a fellow Doctor Who YouTuber and has put out some really good reviews recently of Hartnell stories and also does some really good Doctor Who mixes, original music, remixes, and so on. Check him out. Says black and white pretty much for the same reason as everyone else: consistency and authenticity. If the original episodes aren't in color, it only makes sense. And 5SSS made a good point. It keeps the DVD's value if they're the only ones with the color versions. And Simon Mincher, who is not only a subscriber but also one of my patrons, and also recently sent me a fantastic package. Just got it in today as I'm recording this. He sent me the season 18 standard edition. I am super excited about opening that, and well, I should say I've opened it already. That's how I know what it is. I didn't even know it was coming, but I really appreciate Simon sending me that. I didn't know who had sent it, but it got posted early on Patreon because my patrons get early access to stuff, so it got posted there. And he let me know he was the one who sent it, which I really appreciate Simon doing. He sent several things to the PO box, and again, he supports me on the Patreon, so he's a huge supporter of the channel. Want to give him a shout out. Really appreciate you, Simon. Thank you for everything you do. He says black and white is a lot more authentic for classic 60s Who, and I think cheaper to create. More budget available by releasing in that format without color, which means more animations rather than telesnaps, which are awful. Some of the telesnap recons I can get through pretty well. Some of them I cannot. It just depends on the recon. I actually enjoy Furies a lot, whereas the Space Pirate one's really hard because most of them aren't really telesnaps. They're recreated photos that make it a lot harder to get through. So almost completely the comments going with black and white. I think we had, one in there the whole time that argued for color? Almost all the comments going with black and white. And the vote, again, going 76% in favor of black and white with only 24% in favor of color. I would not be heartbroken either way. I can say that. Like, if they only did one version, I would not be upset with the way they went. One, because I get the standard releases anyway, so I have them. Two, I tend to enjoy both versions of the story. So if for some reason they did use the color version, since those are kind of the definitive versions, honestly, from a production standpoint, if they did go with the color versions on the box sets, it would not be the end of my world. I would get over it. I'd just go, oh, okay. I might not have done that, but sure, I would be fine. If they went with just the black and white ones for consistency's sake, I would also be fine. Especially since the audience buying the collection box sets is probably the older fan, not the person who's about to get introduced for Doctor Who for the first time with Shudigatwa. So either way, I'll be fine. But I don't really have a preference, honestly, because my preference on which version I like depends on the story. So I want to know what you think if you didn't have a chance to vote in this poll. So comment down below and let me know which version, if we could only have one on a collection box set, would you like to see. Now, I don't think we'll have to worry about this for a while, because if the next set is season 6, none of them are the newer animations. The only animation in season 6 is the invasion, and I still think it probably only needs one disc, so it's not going to be problematic for season 6. Probably not for season 1 either, unless we get an animation of Marco Polo before we eventually get season 1. It's going to be more seasons 3, 4, and 5 where it starts to become problematic. Maybe not even season 5. I need to sit down and think about season 5. I think you could do season 5 in 9 discs. I have to think about that. Season 4, 3, and 4 are the ones that I think are the major problem where this becomes an issue. So comment down below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There is a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney and Finn Perkins. I do appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It is appreciated. I also have my P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, just like that wonderful package Simon sent today. Well, that came in today, I should say. I also have a link to my Amazon wish list down there and a link to my Amazon UK wish list down there. And I have found, having gotten the season 18... here it is. I have found, having gotten in the standard edition of season 18, I really like these standard editions. I mean, I love my limited editions. They're showpieces, but I love just the convenience and ease of these, that I would absolutely love to get some more of them. I really appreciate Simon sending this, because if you saw the unboxing video, you saw just how excited and how quickly I fell in love with the thing. I was super, super happy. So I would love to get some more of these. They're on. Some of them are on the regular wish list, the regular Amazon, the US Amazon. Uh, and I think I have most of the ones I don't have yet also on the UK wish list. So links to both the regular Amazon wish list. I'm calling the US version the regular Amazon wish list. You're just going to have to accept that. And a link to the Amazon UK wish list is down there as well. If anyone would like to send any of the standard versions, again, it's not nothing I necessarily need. I do have the limited editions, but I would love to have these because I always feel like I'm going to break my limited editions just by touching them. I'm so paranoid about them. I don't want to damage them. I'm having so much fun with this video. As always, most importantly, thank you for watching.